My name is Christina Glenn, and I am going to do this video so that way I can hopefully have some means to get some help for everything that I have going on in my life right now. I don't think my life is any worse, or could be any worse than a lot of people have it, but I'm at a point where I feel like I have to ask for help because I don't know where to continue, or if I can continue. I wrote everything down in a letter, and it seems like everything that I write down is like way too long to submit to anyone, so I apologize, but I'm going to be reading from a letter, so you're not going to see much eye contact from me. Not that you would anyways. As I said, my name is Christina Glenn, and I'm 26 years old. I live in Toledo, Ohio. I have a master's degree in business administration. And with that, I thought I was on my way to creating the life that I've always wanted for myself and my husband that I have now. I'm recently married. Unfortunately, I'm certain that I feel like I'm not gonna survive long enough to see any success from what I feel like I've worked so hard for so long. And life has given me ample opportunities to fail, and I'm proud to say so far that I have overcome everything that the world has thrown at me. From poverty and drug and alcohol abuse in my family, near-death experience, brain injuries, mysterious medical conditions, recently being assaulted. It's like life has already taught me I should be appreciating everything I have, because in an instant everything could change. I guess I'm going to start from kind of the beginning, or what I feel like is a good point to start to give you an understanding about my life and kind of how I've gotten to where I am today. So, I'm the middle child of my family. I'm the daughter of a 3-time married alcoholic woman who gave me no childhood and left me with no pleasant memories, if I have any memories at all. But I love her. I still love her. I love her nonetheless because it made me who I am right now. And it taught me that I really do have to work hard, and I have to love others who are less fortunate, and give back anytime that I can. If it weren't for those who reach out to me when I was in need, I probably wouldn't be alive, or be here, or be talking, or doing any of the things I'm doing today. My earliest memory of Ohio was when my family and I moved to my grandpa's house. My older brother, little sister, and I all shared one bedroom. And it was in this house that was like, had a really long driveway, and it was out in the country, and it was like over 200 acres, and it was probably the best time I had as a kid. And it seemed like we were all really happy then. And it's amazing the awful details that people reveal and share with you once they think that you're old enough to really understand what was really going on at a time when you actually thought that life was good. It's a shame that people find it necessary to later in life share details like that tarnish the only good memories that you had from when you were a kid. We moved from my grandpa's house into a trailer park after a couple years. And at that point, it seemed like life started to go downhill from there. And if you had known me as a child, I guess you might wonder how I turned out. I guess it's, I don't know, as normal as I have. I don't know what you consider normal, but I guess this is it. Considering my entire life has been nothing but normal. And I think it started, like I said, going downhill when I was in about the 3rd grade. And that was the year that I learned what the word divorce meant. I remember going in to see a guidance counselor, and there was a book called Dinosaur Divorce. I will never forget that book. It was. Why is it that my parents thought that it was necessary to have my school guidance counselor talk about what was going on at home instead of talking to me or my brother or my sister about what was going on at home? It's the year that I learned that the man that I thought was my dad was actually not my dad. He was actually my little sister's dad. Turns out that my mom actually got pregnant with me when she was still married to my brother's dad. And while going through divorce with him, she had to hide the pregnancy. I never met well, I did meet him, but I don't know my dad. I don't really have any desire to. But back to my sister's dad. I don't know, it's funny the little things that you remember. I distinctly remember a piece of jewelry that I had gotten from him that said Daddy's little girl, and I remember that when I learned that he wasn't, I remember being really sad, thinking about what that's like. I don't know, when you're 8 years old, do you have feelings like that? I did. I had a lot of feelings that I never knew that I had at that age. And for a while, I was allowed to do visitation when my sister went on Wednesdays and every other weekend to visit her dad. But eventually, I was told by my mom that he didn't want me to come anymore, so I wasn't allowed to go. And I remember trying every excuse possible to try and go and see, saying things like I wanted to spend time with Tracy, my sister, or I wanted to come for a sleepover. It wasn't about me visiting him. I just really probably was. Meanwhile, my mom started seeing this guy named Craig, and he was a drinker, big drinker. And to that date, I don't really recall seeing my mom drink before, or at least I don't recall her ever being drunk. Maybe there was a glass of wine, but I don't even think that seeing a glass of wine when I was younger, in my head I associated it as alcohol or anything bad, because it wasn't, nothing bad resulted from it. So I don't know. But up until that point, she had never scared me with her drunkenness, and so I didn't remember it. When Craig came into the picture, my mom became a very different person. Thank God for, that body's automatic capability to block out certain events and memories that hurt. I think if I could remember everything, I'd probably want to die. Craig brought the devil literally into our lives. Craig continued to abuse alcohol and my mother, and physically myself, and eventually he sexually abused my little sister. He had no job, and everybody knew that he was no good. But for some reason, it took Craig going to prison for raping my little sister for my mom to actually be finished with him. I was fortunate enough, I guess you could say, to learn at a very young age what I needed to do to survive. And because of this, I've worked, been employed, found means to eat, get my clothes washed, take a shower, all these things, at a very young age, and also by the grace of other people who thought enough of me or felt sorry enough for me or something to take me in when I needed it, and to love me when I was a pain in the back, a pain in the neck, considering the circumstances and situation that I was in, because I was a horrible child. I was mouthy, unappreciative. I hate that everybody that tried so hard to love me because they knew what situation that I was in. I hate that I still gave them such a hard time. There's so many people that I've said sorry to, that I want to say sorry to, that I want to go back in time and redo things with, and I'll never get to do that with some of them. Also, in my third grade year, I was made aware of a problem that I had. I had begun to develop what appeared to be a left lazy eye. I went to the doctor and he said as long as it didn't affect my vision, I'd be fine. By the time I was 12, my left eye drooped so low my vision was severely disrupted. Not only was I having problems with my left eye, my right eye had become to lay in the same fashion. It began to affect other areas of my life as well. When I was 13, at the prime of my at-home abuse, I was hit by a car as I was attempting to cross the street. Broke the car's windshield with my skull and was thrown into the side of a nearby truck, which left a sizable dent in the truck. Broke my left leg and ankle, my right clavicle, and fell deep into a coma due to a massive brain injury. I was in a coma for 9 days and given a 15% chance of recovery. I don't understand why my mom didn't just let me go. It was her opportunity to get rid of her last child. When she went through the divorce with my sister's dad, she sent my sister to live with her dad, sent my brother to live with his dad, and since I didn't know my dad, she didn't have anywhere to send me. So I still struggle with the question of why didn't she just let me go? And I woke up after that coma after 9 days. I don't remember anything. Or remember much, I guess. I don't remember much about being in the hospital. I just kind of, I know what I've been told and what's been relayed to me, and I was told by my brother, who was the only one in the room at the time when I woke up from the coma, that my mom wasn't. That my mom wasn't there because she and Craig had gone to the bar. He said he was so angry. When he was 15. I do remember him showing me his permit. It's one thing I do remember. When I woke up, he showed me his permit. It's the little things. During my time in the hospital while still in intensive care, it was found out that Craig had sexually abused my sister. I remember not wanting to believe it and thinking that she was lying and that she was just saying it because she wanted some attention because, this was the time when the focus was on me. And then it was selfish, and I have no doubt now that it happened. I remember after it happened lying in the hospital, after finding out and then lying in the hospital bed, and my mom and Craig were both there, and as they were leaving, Craig leaned over and kissed me on the forehead, and I hated Craig, and I felt so disgusted. I never liked him. It was just so worthless than me. I was just so disgusted. I was hit by the car on September 2nd of 1999. And I guess I'm happy to say that, with the exception of a few scars, I was thought to be fully recovered until recently, and that's partly why I'm doing this video. I had to go to court to determine the fault of my being hit by the car, and I was put on the stand. And during my examination, I was told that people, when they looked at me, they could see that I had problems with my eyes. They said I walked around with my head tilted back because I couldn't lift my eyelids. They even demonstrated how goofy I looked when I walked around. I just thought it was ridiculous to have somebody show you how ridiculous you look when you're walking around and you don't even realize it. You have a problem like that? I was 13 years old, and this guy is telling me and showing me how ridiculous I looked, and telling me how much of a problem I had. It was hurtful. The jury ruled that it was my fault. I never thought that I looked that bad. I never thought I looked that different. But after that, I just hated myself for it. The year prior to the accident, I was entering junior high, and I had to go get the shots necessary to attend school. And we were poor, so I went to the health department where they accepted Medicaid. And the doctor there seemed to take some sort of interest in my eye condition. I mean, he could tell there was something abnormal, I guess. So he got out his little medical books and began to bring all of these possible diseases I may have that could be causing my disorder. He did nothing further than plant a seed for a life of anxiety for me, and thank you for that. He suggested that perhaps I had myotrophic lateral sclerosis. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that exactly right, but it's also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Or myasthenia gravis. Both are debilitating diseases that can ultimately cause death. It's not something a 12-year-old wants or needs or should hear. My mom and grandpa took me to the Kellogg Eye Center in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I became a patient of a Dr. Bartley Free. He was my lifesaver at the time. I ran a lot of tests to see if I had any of the symptoms consistent with the diseases the clinic doctor had mentioned, and it wasn't believed that I had either of those two diseases, but it was never really determined what caused the disorder that I have. The subject of my eyes was not revisited until that day in court when that lawyer demonstrated how ridiculous I looked. After that, I did revisit Dr. Free. At the same time, my mother finally gave up Craig. She met a new man. His name was Don. Before I was even out of my wheelchair from the accident, we were practically living with him. I remember giving Don such a hard time as an angry, confused teenager. I regret that I treated him so disrespectfully. I wouldn't even call him by his first name. I just referred to him as retard. I don't know how somebody could put up with a child like that. It was terrible. I treated him so disrespectfully on a daily basis. But Don also liked his alcohol. Still does. He's a beer drinker. And it shows. So I was convinced that life wasn't going to change even though Craig was in prison. Within 2 months, we had completely moved in with Don, and I was going to be starting high school. I had a brand new school. At the school I was leaving, I knew all the people, and they knew me. At the new school, I was snickered at, taunted, made fun of, picked on for the way my eyes looked. I was miserable. I even went so far as to seek permission from the administration to leave until I could get my eye issue under control, and I was told no. No one has an idea of what it's like down. No one has an idea of what it's like to walk down the hallway and have people scream in your face to open your eyes, but you can't. I was continually asked if I were high, or where they could get drugs, or where they could get whatever I was on. I hated myself. I went to my school for about 6 months before my surgery day came for my eyes. Dr. Free performed a surgery on me that was to help me see better. I had silicone rods inserted into my eyelids here, and they are attached down into, from my eyebrows here. I'm sorry, they're inserted in my eyebrows, and they feed down into my eyelids, and then they go back up to the other side of my eyebrows. So when I lift my eyebrows, my eyes open, and that's basically how that works. It's simple, but so complex. I don't know. The surgery definitely gave me a vision improvement, and it also gave me a little more confidence, but the surgery left me unable to blink properly or close my eyelids easily. In fact, I don't blink at all unless I think about it. It feels like I'm blinking, feels like I'm blinking right now, but really I feel like I think my eyes just kind of twitch a little. I'm not actually blinking. Like to blink, I really have to relax my forehead and close my eyes. And that's funny because last time I was up there to see Dr. Free, one of the doctors that was in there, they asked me about like when I sleep. And sometimes I sleep with my eyes open. But I have this theory, it's like if I fall asleep, then I sleep with my eyes open. But if I close my eyes and I relax and I go to sleep, my theory is that I sleep with them shut. I don't know if that's true. I've tried like face mask things to hold them shut. Yeah, bad idea. Try waking up with one of those stuck to your eyeball because your eyelids have come open. Not a good idea. Don't do that. But I doubt anybody's in the shoes I'm in. Not many, anyways. Not at least that I've read since I've had the surgery done. So, it's a little disturbing, I guess. My family has adjusted to it, and they've even taken pictures and poked fun, and there's been times where friends and family have attempted to have conversations with me where they thought I was awake and I was actually asleep, but with my eyes open. And we all laugh and we joke about it, because totally looks like I'm awake, but I'm actually sleeping. Um, I had a friend in high school that it's so hard. It's so hard, let alone for me to explain exactly what condition I have, let alone somebody else to explain what is wrong with me. So my best friend in high school, she came up with a terribly rotten but funny and jaw-dropping and pretty much put an end to any further questions answer when people would say, "What's wrong with her?" Um, she would just tell people that, do you remember back in 3rd grade when that total eclipse happened and they told you weren't supposed to look at it? Well, she looked at it. And that's what happens when you look at a total eclipse. So we kind of joked about that and thought that was pretty funny. But what do you say? It's too difficult for people to understand or to grasp or to have any empathy for or to care about. It's still there whether I explain it or not. You're still going to look at me differently whether I tell you what's the actual deal or not. It's still there. In 2005, I had my eye surgery redone. It was 5 years after the initial surgery. I felt I had to have it redone because I had to work a lot harder to keep my eyelids open. And the rods were either stretched or something, and I had a hard time getting my parents' insurance to pay for this surgery because they argued it was cosmetic. And I hardly think that something that enables you to see properly is cosmetic. And I'm actually at a point where I feel like it probably needs to be redone again. But unfortunately, the doctor that did my surgery had some sort of accident or fall, and he never recovered and passed away. There's other doctors in his practice that he trained, and I remember one that had really, really, really pretty eyes in the surgery room, so I know there's other doctors that do it, but in 2010 I was having some pain issues with the rods, and so I called to see if I could get an appointment, and they told me that because I had not been in within the past 2 years that I was considered a new patient. Now explain to me how a facility that is the one and only facility in the world that performs this surgery, that pioneered this surgery, can tell me that I am a new patient when they're the ones that perform this surgery on me that no one else in the world does. Luckily, I didn't end up having to go up there because, number one, there was a 2-year waiting list. Number two, my doctor was dead, and they had no idea who would be seeing me. And number three, the pain seemed to have subsided, so I just kind of gave up on trying to figure it out. Because the medical insurance deemed this to be cosmetic, I was left with huge medical bills. Since the initial surgery also, Dr. Free was no longer in the insurance network. So, of course, we all know what that does, and, costs went up. I had the surgery, and then I continued school and work without much interruption from that surgery. I kind of knew what to expect from the initial surgery and then this one. So, in 2005, also, I lost someone who was a big part of my life as I was growing up. She was the mother of my best friend in junior high and in grade school. I practically lived at her house in between like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade year. Mostly because the abuse at home was a little too much for me to handle, and she recognized that, and there wasn't any time day or night that she wouldn't come and get me. She made my life livable, and she helped me see what a family can really be. But sadly, she also had a drug problem and was addicted to painkillers and died in her bed from an accidental overdose of morphine. She had shot into herself, and her family found her the following morning dead. In 2006, I fell into a deep depression. I left school and I moved back to my mom's house. Began working full-time and seeing a psychiatrist and a therapist. By fall of 2006, by spring of 2006, so long ago, I guess I felt like I was able to go back to school, and I picked my classes back up at Heidelberg and Tiffin, so that was positive, but that was a really hard time in my life, and I'd never been so depressed. In 2007, I began experiencing some other serious health issues. I was having severe abdominal pain, and through a series of tests and a laparoscopy, it was determined I had endometriosis. Following my diagnosis, I saw no improvement with my pain, and I continued to accrue doctor bills because I kept going to the doctor because something had to be causing my pain. I also had begun frequenting hospital emergency rooms to handle my pain because a normal doctor's office couldn't give me the type of pain medicine that would touch the type of pain that I was feeling. And the emergency rooms eventually told me that I would be labeled a narcotic seeker if I continued to go there for my pain. And then I could see why they would say that, but I had no other options, and there wasn't any real test that the emergency rooms could do to support my claim of my severe pain. I went back to the doctor again, and she did some more testing, and she determined that I also had interstitial cystitis. I was referred to a urologist, and he started me on medication and performed a bladder distension, which alleviated my pain for about a week. I was unable to maintain office visits with this urologist because it was so expensive. Still in pain, my doctor who diagnosed me referred me to a pain specialist. I went to him for about a year, and he put me on medication that caused me to gain 40 pounds, but it seemed to help my pain, so I embraced it and invested in sweatpants. After about 6 or so months of manageable pain, the medicine seemed to stop working, and I was unable to afford further investigate what medications may help me with a pain doctor because I had no money to help me cover the outstanding medical bills I had. I began using my credit cards to cover office visits and medication. I was taking close to 20 pills a day and having to make frequent checkups, but I still had no pain relief. I began getting monthly injections, which weren't cheap. I even had a procedure done with a catheter where they directly injected like heparin and 2 other drugs into my bladder to try and numb the pain from the interstitial cystitis, but that was more painful than help for my bladder. And they really couldn't even pinpoint where the pain was coming from, so that was kind of a trial thing. And my insurance didn't cover that. Both of those, I went 2 weeks in a row for that. $3,000 each, and my insurance did not cover it. I was lucky enough that the office just wrote off those two visits with the medication included. Happily, I can say that my pain is under control now, for the most part, but I still have to take, you know, a couple pills every now and again, and I give myself an injection once every 3 months to prevent my body from um, having a period, so that way my endometriosis stays under control. To save on cost, I have learned to give myself the injection. I can't afford to have a nurse give me the injection. I actually can't even afford to have the pharmacy give me a pre-filled syringe. I have to get the vial, the needle, and I have to fill the needle myself because it's cheaper that way. So despite all the hurdles in my life, I graduated on time in 2008 with a bachelor's degree from Heidelberg in business administration. Immediately after graduating, I applied to the Ohio State University to pursue another bachelor's degree. I really, at this point, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I guess I assumed I would be productive and continue educating myself. So there I was, got accepted to The Ohio State University, enrolled in classes, living in Columbus in an apartment. But unfortunately, I had to withdraw from OSU because my financial aid did not come through in time. So this point was stressful in my life because now I had an apartment but no job. And I was looking wide and far for a job, but in 2008 was the year when the economy started declining quickly. And other than working at WG Grinders, which makes the best subs in the entire world, there wasn't anybody willing to offer me a livable wage, not for what I needed to do to pay rent and utilities. So I began to again rely heavily on my credit cards to survive. I paid rent and utilities with my credit card until my credit ran out. Then I moved back to Tiffin. I was in over my head with medical and living expense debt, and I was also facing huge student loan debt. When my mom married Don, it was awesome because he had a nice house and a great, well-paying job, so I didn't have to live in any more houses without running water like we did previously. But as soon as I looked at my college financial situation, it sucked. I mean, I had parents that now grossed 6 figures combined. So if anybody understands what that does for a child trying to apply for federal financial aid, it makes it impossible. I had major medical bills or medical issues, so I had to let them claim me for their taxes, so that way I could be on their medical insurance still, so that way I was still eligible for some sort of healthcare coverage. I needed that since I had a lot of things going on with me. So when your parents make as much money as they were, like I said, that makes you ineligible for the federal financial aid. So what's your other option? Your other option is private loans. And when you have parents that don't want to help you pay for school, you're kind of stuck taking out private loans with variable interest rates, which is what I did. And luck isn't the right word for it, but I had good enough credit that I never needed a cosigner for any of these private loans. And I don't know if you guys remember back several years ago, like in 2006, 7, somewhere around there. There were those commercials on TV where you could take out up to $40,000 a year and it'll be sent right to you for all your college expenses. And that was this girl. Call that 1-800 number. If few days later, you've got a check for $40,000 in your hand, or whatever amount you tell them you need. I abused that lending system. And this was before the time when the laws changed and student loans had to be certified. Thank God that the law changed and student loans had to be certified. There has got to be many young people like me who are in the same situation that I am in, because loans like that did not require certification and you could borrow up to $40,000 a year. I don't own a Lamborghini. I don't have lavish toys. I have a decent home, a roof over my head, a couple of cats, a recliner, a comfortable bed. But I also have almost $300,000 in student loan debt if you include the interest. Heidelberg was a private college, so it wasn't cheap. Per year, I did take out, like I said, close to $40,000 a year to cover. I did cover tuition, don't get me wrong. I did pay for books with that and the living expenses. Not to say that there was a lot left over, but I did overborrow. I should not have borrowed as much as I did. And when you go to Heidelberg for 6 years, undergrad and grad school, that adds up. And when you are continually borrowing privately, that adds up as well. So after 4 years of my undergrad, I was facing the repayment of several loans with variable interest rates from several different lenders. I had no job. My medical bills were astronomical. So then I made the decision to go to grad school, strictly to defer my loans. The only problem with attending grad school was that I had to pay for grad school. So I was able to defer my loans, but this meant I also had to add to them. I have since graduated in May 2012 with my master's in business administration, and as I said, I am close to $300,000 in student loan debt right now. Most of the loans are private, and at one point I had learned that 2 of the $20,000 loans I had to take out were at a variable interest rate of 29.99%. How does this leave me with any ability to ever repay the student loan debt I have? And it just keeps getting better and better. In 2009, I was offered a job in Toledo, Ohio, working in an apartment building, and I accepted it and moved into the building I was working in. I was only able to do this because of the huge discount that they offered me on rent. And I still struggled to keep up with all the bills because the wage that I was paid was not a livable wage. It wasn't minimum wage, but for 2 people, it's not a livable wage. So, in 2010, facing huge medical bills, credit card bills, I made the decision to file for bankruptcy. I struggled with this decision because I know the impact that it has. I was never late on any of my payments, but the payments were so high that as soon as I paid off some of my credit cards, I would have to use the available credit that I created to eat and survive. I knew I was not going to be able to make payments on my medical bills and my credit cards once it came time for me to start repaying the student loans. So that's why I made the decision to file for bankruptcy. My credit card bills and my medical bills were discharged in December of 2010. The problem I am facing now is that bankruptcy made me, well, the problem that I faced at the time was that bankruptcy made me ineligible for student loans to finish school. And I wasn't done with school yet. I was still in grad school. I had to shamefully ask my boyfriend, which is now my husband, to endorse my last loans so that way I could finish my MBA. It's embarrassing. It's stressful. It's depressing because I don't know that I will ever be able to repay these loans. I'm now working full-time in the corporate office of the premier provider of glassware and tabletop-related products here in Toledo, Ohio. It is a step closer to my dream job of becoming an executive assistant, but I am still not making the wage that will allow me to pay rent and student loans back. As I got closer to graduating with my MBA, it became more depressing from the realization that the day I have to start repaying my loans is nearing. Because my loans are for multiple lenders and most are private, like I said, I can't consolidate them into one payment necessarily. So I will have multiple payments due from multiple lenders each month, and I can't manage that. There's no way. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm sad because I know the only way I can get these loans to go away is by death. If you read the small print, that is the one and only way that your loans will go away. But I know I have a lot to live for, so I'm not looking to do that. I've lived through a life of pain and agony and have become someone I can finally be proud of, or try to be proud of. But I'm also running out of options to survive in the future because of the student loan debt. And I'm not afraid to work my butt off to pay every penny of these loans back. But with the job market, I can't find a job to pay me what I need to do this. I received a bill in September that said on October 1st, I had a student loan payment due of $1,600. That is more than 3/4 of what I bring in 1 month. It's impossible. I've never asked for financial help from anyone because I am a firm believer that I feel like I got myself into this mess. I have to be able to get myself out of it. I also feel like the lenders are somewhat to blame for allowing kids to borrow that much money. But I have to take personal responsibility as well. But I am as low as I can go in terms of survival when it comes to trying to accommodate the lenders on their payment terms. I can't even negotiate a lower payment cost because when you have over 2 dozen loans, And even if you tried to pay just $20 each on those a month, that doesn't even cover the interest on those loans. You're never going to get anywhere on those loans. It doesn't make sense. I don't want to be running and hiding my whole life, and I don't want to ruin my husband's life because of... If I could just give my education back, I would. If I had known that this is what it was going to cost me later down the line, I would never have went to college. There's so many people that I know that decided to go straight into the workforce rather than go to college that are making so much more money than I am right now. And it kills me how the world pushes, go to college, go to college. College, you need a degree. It's just a piece of paper that costs you everything. It cost me everything, and I have nothing to show for it. And I regret it. I really do have nothing but education left to my name. And I have become a part of the overeducated and underpaid statistic in America. And I do need help. If I could just be given an opportunity to live the life I had worked so hard for, and not to have to worry to the point of contemplating suicide, I would be forever grateful. I would be willing to eat, sleep, breathe, any job that would be willing to pay me enough to repay my loans for my education. I just need the chance. I am officially out of forbearance time in January of 2013. I've also learned that one of my loans, which had been guaranteed by a company, has been sent to collection. Imagine that. I filed for bankruptcy, had my debts discharged, and now I already have something in collection. Mind you, they never sent me a bill to give me an opportunity to pay on that. And none of my other student loan bills went to collection, so this one sounds fishy to me. What's craziest about it is that I had no idea the company guaranteed my loan, so when Citi was informed my bankruptcy had closed, they went to the company for repayment. The company then turned around and sent the bill to collection. I don't understand how they can even do that without giving me an opportunity to repay. It's all just becoming too much for me, and I'm afraid of what my future holds. So I need help. If you have any opportunities for me to work, or if you have any words of wisdom or advice for repaying loans from the education, please tell me. This is basically my last hope for a future. I know there's going to be criticism. I hold myself accountable. Say it. I need it. I deserve it. But I also deserve to have people recognize the other side of the situation that I'm in. The economy. The way lenders took advantage of students. Things like that. I'm not in control now. There's nothing that I can do to fix this. Also, as of today,